الصلوات على محمد وآل محمد اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وآله آل الله واللعنة على آدائهم وآداوتهم إلى يوم لقاء الله السلام عليكم جميعا ورحمة الله وبركاته. Today, the 2nd of September 2021 and the 24th of Muharram, the night of the martyrdom. Tomorrow is the martyrdom, and tonight we are commemorating the martyrdom of Imam Zainul Abideen alayhi salatu wassalam. Allahumma salli ala Muhammadin wa ali Muhammad. So as you know, dear brothers and sisters, that yesterday we were discussing one part from Risalatul Huquq, the Treatise of Rights. It's a book by Imam Sajjad alayhi salatu wasalam. It's a book which has compiled the sayings of Imam Sajjad alayhi salatu wasalam. And where in that book you see the rights, as I was saying yesterday, Islam is a system. It's a system that is for the life. It's not for the trees, it's not for the wood, it's not for the books, it's not for the building. Islam gives us a lifestyle that we should follow. It is essential for us to follow that lifestyle because our purpose of creation, when we are created, that we have a purpose. The way that we have a purpose to pray, the way there is a purpose for the majalis, the way there is a purpose for azadari, we have a purpose in our life. And when we live that life according to how we are supposed to live it, the way that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He tells us to live it, He gives us the Holy Quran, and He gives us the Ahlul Bayt alayhi salatu wassalam. And in the hadith, as you know, the Prophet, the Holy Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallam, Allahumma salli ala Muhammadin wa ali Muhammad wa ajjil farajahum. As you know, the Holy Prophet, he leaves behind two things, the Quran and the Ahlul Bayt. And it is our responsibility that we look into the Quran, we read the Quran. Yesterday I was emphasizing that we should understand what we are reading. Rather than we just read through it or skim through it like it's, a burden upon our shoulders. It's not a burden. Rather, we should feel blessed that we are on the path of Ahlul Bayt alayhi salatu wasalam, with the followers of Ahlul Bayt alayhi salatu wasalam, who give us a life to live by. They teach us how to live our life. And each of this hadith, be it Imam Sajjad alayhi salam, be it Imam Al-Baqir alayhi salam, be it Imam Ali, Imam Hassan, Imam Hussein, any member of the Ahlul Bayt alayhi salatu wasalam, the wisdom, what they speak is wisdom. What they do is wisdom. The life they live is filled with wisdom. They're walking, they're talking, each and every aspect of their daily life is wisdom. And that's why it's important that we take the Quran and the Ahlul Bayt, the saying of Ahlul Bayt alayhi salatu wasalam, and implement them into our life. So, as you know, yesterday we talked about one aspect. Inshallah, we'll talk about another aspect, another right, the right of the one who seeks counsel, meaning the one who seeks advice. Inshallah, we'll go forward in a few moments and discuss that. But before that, we see that in the Battle of Karbala, Imam Hussein alayhi salatu wassalam, Allahumma salli ala Muhammadin wa ali Muhammad. We see Imam Hussein alayhi salam, when he leaves Medina, he doesn't leave alone. He takes his sister, he takes his brother, he takes his children, he takes his companions. And there are some individuals that Imam, when he gets to Karbala, he writes letters to them to invite them towards Imam Hussein alayhi salam to come and join him in the stance against the batil, against the injustice, against the oppressor, against the Yazid. Yazid, we think of him as an individual. Yazid, 1400 years ago, he fought with Imam Hussein alayhi salam. But we should look at Yazid as an ideology. And similarly, we shouldn't look at Imam Hussein just as an individual. The Imam Hussein alayhi salatu wasalam, he leaves an ideology behind for us to follow. And we see that even today, there is the followers of Yazid who are the ones who are attacking Imam Hussein's followers. You see them in the prayer, they come in the Salatul Jum'ah and they blow the whole masjid up. These are the followers of Yazid. But when we see the followers of Imam Hussein alayhi salam, recently I was just watching a video, a clip from Pakistan where the procession of Imam Hussein, it is going. And the followers of Yazid, they're taking rocks and they're taking bricks and they're throwing it at the procession. But when we see that these followers of Imam Hussein alayhi salam, they don't get scared by bricks being thrown at them. Imam Hussein alayhi salam, he had arrows and spears and swords being fought against him. When we see the followers of Imam Hussein, bricks are being thrown at them, but they don't just back up and go in, run away. But rather they go and show that you can throw all the bricks that you want, you can throw all the rocks that you want, you can do whatever you want. But the remembrance of Imam Hussein alayhi salam, it will never end until the day of judgment. Even on the day of judgment, we will be remembering Imam Hussein alayhi salatu wassalam. Allahumma salli ala Muhammadin wa ali Muhammad. So as I was mentioning, Imam Hussein alayhi salam, he takes his whole family. That is something that we should reflect upon, that Imam Hussein didn't go himself, he took his family. So when we look at Karbala, we see there is a role model for everybody. We see it from the youngest 6-month-old child, Hazrat Ali Asghar alayhi salatu wassalam, 6-month-old, and we see Habib ibn Mawahib, who is above his 80s, in his 90s. He's very old. So we see that from the beginning, Imam Hussein alayhi salam, he takes everybody for sacrificing his family, his companions for the truth, for the justice, in order to preserve the principles and the true values of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallam. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. For some people, especially nowadays, you see people making videos, oh, this was a political event, that, oh, 2 princes, they wanted to fight over the throne. If this was such, then why would Imam Hussein take his family? Why would he take his 4-year-old daughter, Bibi Sakina salamullahi alayha? Why would he take his sister, Sayyida Zainul salamullahi alayha? So when we see that Imam Hussein, he puts forth everything that he has at stake to save al-Islam, the true Islam, not the Islam that Yazid, was propagating, that, oh, he is the Khalifa and he can do whatever he wants. Even today, there are some people who say that whoever is Khalifatul Muslimin, you see in the Prince of Saudi Arabia, whatever he's doing, it's all right. And when you see 10 years ago, the women that were not allowed to drive, today they're driving. And the meaning that they don't look at the true values of Islam, and who is the Khalifatul Muslimin, according into their eyes, whatever he is doing, even if it goes against the true values of Islam, it is obligatory for them to follow. But for us, we don't look at it that way, because the Khalifa and the Imams that we have, they're not elected by 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 people, whoever are there. They're selected and they're sent to us by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And when we see Imam Hussein alayhi salam, he takes his whole family just to Karbala. Just moment of fear to pause and look that when Imam Hussein alayhi salam, when he brings his whole family to Karbala, that's a lesson for us. That when we come to the remembrance of Abu Abdullah Hussein, we shouldn't come alone. We should bring our family, we should bring our children, we should bring everybody in our household, because this is a remembrance that we live by. It's not that if I am here, there is the remembrance of Imam Hussein, and when I leave, there won't be any more remembrance, and it's going to all finish. It's not like that. Our life is the remembrance of Abu Abdullah Hussein. And when we, recite the poems of Abu Abdullah, we remember the tragedy of Abu Abdullah. We should take lessons from it. We cry, yes, that's good, you get reward for crying. But when we look into the Masaib of Abu Abdullah, we see that the true courage that Imam Hussein and his family had. He took his whole family, and when we see that there are little children, trying to, they're playing there, they don't understand what's going on there, but their presence in the majlis, that's a sign for you that today the child that is playing tomorrow he's going to come and be sitting in the majlis and be learning from the majlis. And the day after that, he will be bringing his own children. So when you see that somebody is, trying to make that child quiet, or somebody, trying to kick him out of the hall, or trying to do anything like that. Yes, I understand, there needs to be concentration. But today, the children that you are pushing outside, that you yell at to get outside of the hall and play outside. Yes, you can have them either play outside or bring them, sit them next to you and have them listen to the majlis. Maybe they don't understand what's going on or what the Mulana is saying. But when they sit down, and when you are practicing having that child sit down there, even though he might be running around or just playing, sitting there, when he sits down, tomorrow he's going to be sitting at the same place with his child. So when you see somebody trying to take the children away or push the children away, a few weeks ago when the Mulana was here, he was saying that today we don't see the youth here. So yesterday the children that you were pushing out, the kicking out, and you don't see them today, now you're worried. So it is our responsibility that the children or the youth that we see here today, we don't push them out, but rather we hold programs. We have, programs which we invite the youth to come in, invite the children, have the children, be part of the program. Rather than pushing them out, bring them into the masjid, bring them into the prayers, bring them into the majlis. Even though they might not understand, but tomorrow you're not going to be worried that, why don't I see children in the masjid? So it's important that you do that. You see, Imam Hussein alayhi salam, he brought his whole family. And why can't we bring our whole family to the majlis? Why don't we bring our whole family to the masjid? So and continuing on from yesterday, from Risalatul Huquq, some advice of Imam Sajjad alayhi salatu wassalam. Allahumma salli ala Muhammadin wa ala Muhammad. As I was saying that, we can remember the tragedy of Abu Abdullah, but we have to also look at the hadith of Abu Abdullah. We look at the hadith of Imam Sajjad alayhi salatu wassalam. We look at their teachings, we look at their sayings, we look at how they act, how they behave. And based on that, we should try to, take what they say in the hadith, the actions that they do, and apply them into our life. So Imam Sajjad alayhi salatu wassalam, we see that he is advising us and telling us what is the right of the one who seeks advice, seeking counsel. So the right of the person who asks you for advice is that if you consider that he has a correct opinion, you should advise him that he should act upon his opinion or that idea that he has. For example, if somebody comes to ask to you that I have to go to Manhattan, which train should I take? I think I should take the E train to get to Manhattan. And if you think that advice that, the suggestion that he is giving is correct, you say, yes, that's the train that's going to take you from here to Manhattan. And similarly, in another situation, sometimes we see, that the tabarruk being given out. Sometimes, they're not halal. You can see everywhere that there, some have halal, and some of them, some of the chips that are not halal, they're also being given out. And the proper way to address that would be, now you don't go and, shout at the person that, what are you giving, what is this? But rather you should, go to them and slightly, like brother or sister, the chip that you are giving out or the food that you are giving out or you're giving out is not permissible. Because in Islam, it is highly important that we concentrate on the rizq that we have, the halal food that we have. In the battle of Karbala, in the field of Karbala, Imam Hussein alayhi salatu wasalam, when he is giving the khutbah, his sermon, he goes forth to the enemies and he is saying that you have consumed so much of haram rizq that you cannot hear me. The people standing against Imam Hussein alayhi salam exactly knew who Imam Hussein alayhi salam was. It's not like that, they got somebody from all the way from around the world and bring him to fight this guy they don't even know. So these are the people who actually know that this is Imam Hussein alayhi salam. This is the grandson of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Allahumma salli ala Muhammadin wa ala Muhammad. And they exactly knew who he was, but they had consumed so much haram that they did not recognize they did not have the ma'rifat of Imam Hussein alayhi salatu wasalam. And when we look at the history of Karbala, we see so many lessons that we can understand and learn. And the Imam goes on in the hadith, he says that if you do not consider his advice, what he is giving you, the advice that he asks you from is correct, you direct him to the right source. So if you don't know, if he is saying, it's the proper information, you direct him that. If he's asking for medical advice, if you think that medical advice is correct, you tell him, yes, that's correct. But if you don't know, you tell him, oh, there's a doctor, go and see that doctor, go and see that mujtahid, go and see that scholar, go and see that alim, to understand what the concept he is asking about. And as you know, it's almost time for Salat. And just a few words for the Masa'ib. Tonight is the martyrdom night of Imam Sajjad alayhi salam. And we have to, understand that the Masa'ib of Imam Sajjad and the Masa'ib of the Ahlul Bayt alayhi salatu wasalam, they're filled with grief. And there was a visitor who came to Imam Sajjad alayhi salatu wasalam. He comes to Imam Sajjad. He asked, what was the tragic part of the event of Karbala? Imam Sajjad alayhi salam, he says 3 times, Ayyam, Ayyam, Ayyam. ألا لعنة الله على القوم الظالمين وسيعلم الذين ظلموا أي منقلب ينقلبون ربنا تقبل منا إنك أنت السميع العليم. صلوات على محمد وعلى. Let us recite 5 times Amma Yujib for the people who are sick, in distress, in need of our prayers, and those who have going through the COVID situation, those who are injured, those who need our prayers. Let us recite 5 times Amma Yujib. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Amma yujibu al-mutarra idha da'ahu wa yakshifu as-su'. Amma yujibu al-mutarra idha da'ahu wa yakshifu as-su'. أما يجيب المضطر إذا دعاه ويكشف السوء أما يجيب المضطر إذا دعاه ويكشف السوء اللهم اشف كل مريض بحق إمام سجاد عليه الصلاة والسلام صلوات